For centuries, Switzerland has maintained a policy of armed neutrality in international affairs. But why? And has it always been for the best?
I have no strong feelings one way or the other.
The origins of Switzerland's neutrality date to the defeat of the old Swiss Confederacy by the French at the Battle of Marignano in 1515. Following this humbling defeat, the Swiss Confederacy abandoned its expansionist foreign policy and moved toward a policy of avoiding future conflict in the interest of self-preservation. However, the Napoleonic Wars truly solidified Switzerland's position as a neutral nation. France invaded Switzerland in 1798 and turned it into a satellite of Napoleon Bonaparte's empire, essentially forcing it to abandon its policy of de facto neutrality. After Napoleon's defeat at Waterloo, the major European powers concluded that a neutral Switzerland would serve as a valuable buffer zone between France and Austria and contribute to stability in the region.
Should we trust him, your neutralness?
All I know is my gut says maybe.
During the 1815 Congress of Vienna, these nations signed a declaration affirming Switzerland's perpetual neutrality within the international community. It has continued ever since. Switzerland's great value as a neutral actor in Europe was best demonstrated during World War I. Swiss neutrality kept the country out of the immensely complicated web of alliances that had sparked the First World War in the first place, and the small mountain nation became a peaceful island in an ocean of death. With both sides desperately short of doctors, prisoners were often carted off to Switzerland for treatment. In small towns such as Château d'Ay, French, German, and British troops were treated without prejudice and left to recover in the gorgeous surroundings of the Swiss Alps, a world away from the muddy hellscape of the Western Front. By the time the war came to an end, Switzerland's neutrality had become truly appreciated by the war's great powers. In February 1920, the country's neutral status was recognized once again during the Treaty of Versailles. That year, the League of Nations was founded, in the hope that such a conflict would not be repeated. The League's headquarters was located in Geneva, the perfect place to resolve international disputes in a peaceful manner. History has certainly tested the Swiss and their commitment to neutrality, however. It took serious resolve to remain a small neutral country surrounded by totalitarian regimes, especially as Germany occupied France during the Second World War. But the Swiss were determined to defend themselves if needs be. At the time, the Swiss newspaper Volksrecht insisted, "It is of the greatest importance that we leave no doubt in anybody's mind that not even the most hopeless situation will make us capitulate voluntarily. And before we can be commanded, we have got to be beaten." Surprisingly, for a neutral nation, Switzerland built an army powerful enough to attract the envy of its neighbors. During the war, Time magazine even claimed that, man for man, the Swiss army was likely the second finest in Europe. Following World War II, Switzerland took a leading role in global affairs by spearheading humanitarian efforts around the world. However, it has taken pains to remove itself from any military operations. The Swiss never joined the North Atlantic Treaty Organization or the European Union, for example. The small Alpine nation is so vehemently anti-interventionist, in fact, that it didn't even join the United Nations until 2002. However, the Swiss still maintain an army for defense purposes, requiring part-time military service from all men between 18 and 34 years of age. In more recent history, Switzerland has actually taken sides in a small handful of conflicts, even wielding economic sanctions to fight for certain causes. The Swiss agreed to take part in UN sanctions for the first time against Saddam Hussein's Iraqi government in the 1990s. And more than once in the last century, the country has risked being dragged into various wars to some degree. Since the Gulf War, Switzerland has used punitive economic measures against various other countries, including Zimbabwe, North Korea, and Iran. Although not part of NATO, Switzerland has also been involved in several NATO-backed expeditions in Kosovo, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Afghanistan. In the spring of 2023, the country faced its toughest decision yet over whether to remain neutral over the war in Ukraine. With popular support for Ukraine mounting in the country, the Swiss government even considered sending arms to the besieged country. The motion was rejected, however, in a vote of 98 to 75 with 2 abstentions.